A contentious chapter in Tibetan history. The 17-Point Agreement. The 17-Point Agreement, formerly known as the Agreement of the Central People's Government and the Local Government of Tibet on Measures for the Peaceful Liberation of Tibet, was a treaty signed on May 23, 1951, between representatives of the People's Republic of China, the PRC, and the Tibetan government. This agreement marked a significant turning point in the relationship between China and Tibet, signifying the latter's incorporation into the newly established PRC. However, the agreement remains a subject of controversy and debate, with differing interpretations and perspectives on its validity and implications. The 17-Point Agreement was signed in the aftermath of the Chinese People's Liberation Army's, the PLA's, invasion of Tibet in 1950. The Tibetan government, led by the Dalai Lama, sought to negotiate a peaceful resolution to the conflict and preserve Tibet's autonomy. The agreement, drafted by the Chinese authorities, outlined the terms of Tibet's integration into the PRC, while ostensibly guaranteeing the preservation of Tibetan culture, religion, and regional autonomy. The agreement's key provisions included the recognition of Chinese sovereignty over Tibet, the establishment of a military and administrative committee to oversee the region, and the integration of the Tibetan army into the PLA. The agreement also promised to respect Tibetan customs and religion, maintain the existing political system, and protect the Dalai Lama's status and authority. However, the implementation of the 17-Point Agreement proved to be a contentious issue. The Tibetan government, under pressure from the Chinese authorities, ratified the agreement, but many Tibetans viewed it as a forced imposition and a violation of their sovereignty. The agreement's provisions on autonomy and religious freedom were often disregarded by the Chinese authorities, who sought to exert greater control over Tibet and suppress dissent. The Tibetan resistance to Chinese rule culminated in the 1959 Tibetan Uprising, which was brutally suppressed by the PLA. The Dalai Lama and thousands of Tibetans fled into exile, seeking refuge in India and other countries. The uprising marked a turning point in the relationship between China and Tibet, leading to increased repression and the erosion of Tibetan autonomy. The 17-Point Agreement remains a source of controversy and debate. The Chinese government views it as a legitimate and binding agreement that peacefully resolved the issue of Tibet's status, and ensured its integration into the PRC. However, many Tibetans and international observers argue that the agreement was signed under duress and that its provisions were never fully implemented. They point to the ongoing repression of Tibetan culture and religion, the lack of genuine autonomy, and the large-scale migration of Han Chinese into Tibet as evidence of China's failure to uphold the agreement's principles. The controversy surrounding the 17-Point Agreement is emblematic of the broader issue of Tibet's relationship with China. The Tibetan government in exile continues to advocate for genuine autonomy for Tibet, and the preservation of its unique culture and identity. The Chinese government, on the other hand, insists on its sovereignty over Tibet and views any calls for autonomy as a threat to its territorial integrity. The 17-Point Agreement represents a complex and contentious chapter in Tibetan history. Its legacy continues to shape the relationship between China and Tibet, with ongoing debates over its validity and implications. The agreement's promises of autonomy and religious freedom remain unfulfilled, and the Tibetan people continue to strive for their right to self-determination. A pillar of American Cold War foreign policy. The Mutual Security Act. The Mutual Security Act, or MSA, of 1951, signed into law by President Harry S. Truman, was a pivotal piece of legislation in American Cold War foreign policy. Aimed at bolstering the security and stability of the free world against the growing threat of Soviet communism, the MSA provided a comprehensive framework for military, economic, and technical assistance to Allied nations. This landmark act not only shaped America's engagement with the world during the Cold War but also laid the groundwork for subsequent foreign aid programs that continue to influence American foreign policy today. The genesis of the MSA can be traced back to the escalating Cold War tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union in the late 1940s and early 1950s. The Soviet Union's consolidation of its grip on Eastern Europe, the Berlin blockade, and the communist victory in the Chinese Civil War all contributed to a growing sense of urgency in Washington. The United States, under the Truman Doctrine, had committed itself to containing the spread of communism, and the MSA was seen as a crucial tool in achieving this objective. The MSA consolidated various existing foreign aid programs under a single umbrella, streamlining the administration and delivery of assistance. It authorized the provision of military and economic aid, as well as technical assistance to friendly nations, with a particular focus on Western Europe and Asia. The Act also established the Mutual Security Agency, which was tasked with coordinating and implementing the various aid programs. The military component of the MSA focused on providing arms, equipment, and training to Allied nations to enhance their defense capabilities. The economic component aimed to promote economic recovery and development in war-torn countries, with a view to strengthening their resilience against communist influence. The technical assistance component sought to transfer American expertise and technology to developing nations to improve their infrastructure and living standards. The MSA was a significant departure from previous foreign aid programs, which had largely focused on post-war reconstruction. The MSA was explicitly designed to address the Cold War security challenges, with a clear emphasis on military and strategic considerations. It reflected a growing recognition in Washington that the containment of communism required a multifaceted approach that encompassed both military and economic dimensions. The MSA had a profound impact on the course of the Cold War. It played a crucial role in rebuilding and strengthening the economies of Western Europe and Japan, making them less vulnerable to communist subversion. The military aid provided under the MSA helped to equip and train the armed forces of Allied nations, enhancing their ability to deter Soviet aggression. The technical assistance programs facilitated the transfer of American knowledge and expertise to developing nations, promoting economic development and social progress. The MSA also had a significant impact on American foreign policy. It institutionalized foreign aid as a key component of American statecraft, and it established a precedent for future foreign aid programs. The MSA also led to the creation of a vast bureaucracy dedicated to the administration and delivery of foreign aid, which would play a major role in shaping American foreign policy for decades to come. The MSA was not without its critics. Some argued that it was too costly and that it propped up corrupt and authoritarian regimes. Others questioned the effectiveness of foreign aid in achieving its stated objectives. However, the MSA's supporters argued that it was a necessary investment in the security and stability of the free world. The Mutual Security Act of 1951 stands as a testament to the American commitment to containing communism and promoting freedom and democracy around the world. It provided a comprehensive framework for military, economic, and technical assistance to Allied nations, and it played a crucial role in shaping the course of the Cold War. The MSA's legacy continues to influence American foreign policy today, as the United States continues to grapple with the challenges of a complex and interconnected world. The Blessed Movement. The Egyptian Revolution. The Egyptian Revolution of 1952, also known as the 23rd of July Revolution, marked a pivotal moment in modern Egyptian history. This transformative event, led by a group of young military officers known as the Free Officers Movement, toppled the monarchy of King Farouk and established a republic. The revolution not only ushered in a new era of political and social change in Egypt but also had a profound impact on the wider Arab world, and the decolonization movement. The roots of the revolution can be traced back to the growing discontent with the monarchy and the ruling elite. King Farouk, known for his extravagance and corruption, was increasingly seen as out of touch with the needs of the people. The Egyptian economy was stagnant, and social inequality was rampant. The defeat in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War further fueled public disillusionment with the monarchy, which was blamed for the military setback. The Free Officers Movement, led by Jamal Abdel Nasser and Mohammed Nahib, emerged as a clandestine organization within the military, united by their shared grievances and aspirations for a better future for Egypt. The movement's ideology was a blend of nationalism, anti-colonialism, and social justice. The Free Officers envisioned a modern, independent, and prosperous Egypt that would play a leading role in the Arab world. On July 23, 1952, the Free Officers launched a coup d'état, seizing control of key government institutions and deposing King Farouk. The coup was met with widespread popular support, as many Egyptians saw it as a long overdue change. The Free Officers quickly consolidated their power, establishing a Revolutionary Command Council, the RCC, to govern the country. The RCC embarked on a series of reforms aimed at modernizing Egypt and addressing the root causes of social and economic inequality. They abolished the monarchy and declared Egypt a republic, nationalized key industries, implemented land reforms, and expanded social services. The RCC also adopted a policy of non-alignment in the Cold War, seeking to maintain Egypt's independence from both the Western and Eastern blocs. One of the most significant achievements of the revolution was the withdrawal of British troops from Egypt. The Free Officers negotiated the Anglo-Egyptian Agreement of 1954, which ended the British military presence in the Suez Canal zone, a symbol of colonial domination. This victory further solidified the RCC's popularity and strengthened Egypt's position as a leader in the Arab world. The Egyptian Revolution of 1952 also had a profound impact on the wider Arab world. It inspired similar revolutionary movements in other Arab countries, including Iraq, Syria, and Libya. The revolution also contributed to the rise of Arab nationalism, a political ideology that sought to unite the Arab world under a common banner. However, the revolution was not without its challenges. The RCC faced internal divisions and external pressures, particularly from the United States and its allies. The Suez Crisis of 1956, in which Israel, Britain, and France invaded Egypt after Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, was a major setback for the revolution. Although Egypt emerged victorious from the crisis, it came at a significant cost, both economically and politically. The Egyptian Revolution of 1952 was a watershed moment in modern Egyptian history. It overthrew a corrupt and unpopular monarchy, ushered in a new era of political and social change, and propelled Egypt to the forefront of the Arab world. The revolution's legacy continues to shape Egyptian politics and society to this day. The revolution's impact on the wider Arab world, and the decolonization movement is undeniable. It inspired countless individuals and movements across the region to fight for their freedom and self-determination. The revolution also helped to reshape the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. paving the way for the emergence of new regional powers and the decline of Western influence. A unique experiment in socialist governance. The Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. The Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, or SFRY, established in 1946 and dissolved in 1992, stands as a unique and complex chapter in the history of socialism and international relations. Formed in the aftermath of the Second World War, Yugoslavia, under the leadership of Josip Broz Tito, charted an independent path, rejecting both the Soviet and Western blocs and forging a unique model of socialist self-management. The SFRY, a federation of 6 republics with diverse ethnic and cultural identities, sought to balance national unity with regional autonomy, creating a complex and often contradictory system of governance that ultimately succumbed to the pressures of nationalism and economic decline in the late 20th century. The genesis of the SFRY can be traced back to the resistance movement against Nazi occupation during the Second World War. The Communist Party of Yugoslavia, the CPY, led by Tito, emerged as the leading force in the resistance, establishing a broad coalition of anti-fascist forces. After the war, the CPY consolidated its power and established a socialist state, initially aligning itself with the Soviet Union. However, Tito's independent streak and his refusal to submit to Stalin's authority led to a break with Moscow in 1948, resulting in Yugoslavia's expulsion from the Cominform, the international communist organization. Isolated from the Soviet bloc, Yugoslavia embarked on a unique path of socialist development, rejecting the Soviet model of centralized planning and state control. Instead, Tito and his colleagues advocated for a system of workers' self-management, in which enterprises would be owned and managed by the workers themselves, rather than by the state. This system, known as samoupravljanje, was intended to empower workers, promote economic efficiency, and foster a more participatory form of socialism. The SFRY was also a pioneer of the Non-Aligned Movement, or NAM, a group of countries that sought to maintain independence from both the Western and Eastern blocs during the Cold War. Tito, along with leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru of India, and Jamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, played a key role in establishing the NAM and promoting its principles of non-interference, peaceful coexistence, and international cooperation. The SFRY's unique model of socialist self-management and its non-aligned foreign policy attracted international attention and admiration. The country enjoyed a period of relative prosperity and stability in the 1950s and 1960s, with significant progress in industrialization, education, and healthcare. However, the system also faced challenges, including economic inefficiencies, regional disparities, and growing ethnic tensions. The Yugoslav Federation was a complex mosaic of diverse ethnic groups, including Serbs, Croats, Slovenes, Bosniaks, Macedonians, and Montenegrins. The communist regime sought to maintain national unity by emphasizing common interests and suppressing nationalist sentiments. However, the underlying ethnic tensions persisted, and the system of regional autonomy, while intended to accommodate diversity, often served to exacerbate these tensions. In the 1980s, Yugoslavia faced a mounting economic crisis, characterized by high inflation, unemployment, and external debt. The economic difficulties, coupled with the resurgence of nationalist movements, fueled social unrest and political instability. The death of Tito in 1980 further weakened the central authority, as the republics began to assert their autonomy and pursue divergent paths. The collapse of communism in Eastern Europe in 1989 further destabilized Yugoslavia, as the republics clamored for greater independence, and the country descended into a bloody civil war. The Yugoslav Federation disintegrated in 1992, with the republics declaring independence, and the country descending into a brutal conflict that lasted for years. The Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia was a unique experiment in socialist governance and non-alignment. Its model of workers' self-management and its independent foreign policy challenged the Cold War orthodoxy and offered an alternative path for developing countries. However, the SFRY's internal contradictions and the resurgence of nationalism ultimately led to its demise, leaving a legacy of conflict and instability in the Balkans. The passing of a tyrant. The death and state funeral of Joseph Stalin. The death of Joseph Stalin, the iron-fisted leader of the Soviet Union for nearly 3 decades on March 5, 1953, marked a watershed moment in the history of the USSR and the world. Stalin's demise, following a cerebral hemorrhage, brought an end to an era defined by his totalitarian rule, ruthless purges, and the transformation of the Soviet Union into an industrial and military powerhouse. His state funeral, a grand spectacle of mourning and propaganda, served as a symbolic transition of power, while also revealing the underlying tensions and uncertainties within the Soviet leadership. Stalin's death was met with a mixture of grief, fear, and uncertainty among the Soviet populace. For some, he was a revered leader who had led the country to victory in the Second World War and transformed it into a major world power. For others, he was a ruthless dictator responsible for the deaths of millions through purges, forced collectivization, and the Gulag labor camps. Regardless of individual sentiments, Stalin's death marked the end of an era, and the beginning of an uncertain future. The state funeral, held on March 9, 1953, was a carefully orchestrated event designed to project an image of national unity and strength. Stalin's body lay in state in the Hall of Columns of the House of Unions, where hundreds of thousands of mourners filed past his coffin. The funeral procession, led by top Communist Party officials, lumbered its way through the streets of Moscow, culminating in a ceremony in Red Square. The funeral orations, delivered by leading figures like Nikita Khrushchev, Georgy Malenkov, and Lavrenti Beria, praised Stalin's achievements and vowed to continue his legacy. However, behind the facade of unity, there were subtle signs of the power struggles that were already underway within the Soviet leadership. The speeches were carefully crafted to avoid any hint of criticism of Stalin, while also subtly positioning the speakers as potential successors. The funeral was not without its tragic consequences. The massive crowds that gathered in Moscow to pay their respects to Stalin resulted in a stampede, in which hundreds if not thousands, of people were killed or injured. The exact number of casualties remains uncertain, as the Soviet authorities suppressed information about the incident. This tragedy, while overshadowed by the official narrative of mourning, served as a grim reminder of the human cost of Stalin's rule. In the aftermath of Stalin's death, a period of political transition and uncertainty ensued. The power struggle among the top leaders intensified, with no clear successor emerging immediately. Eventually, Nikita Khrushchev consolidated his power, denouncing Stalin's crimes in a secret speech in 1956 and initiating a process of de-Stalinization. This marked a significant shift in Soviet policy, with a relaxation of political repression and a greater emphasis on consumer goods and peaceful coexistence with the West. The death and state funeral of Joseph Stalin was a momentous event in the history of the Soviet Union. It marked the end of an era defined by Stalin's totalitarian rule and the beginning of a new chapter, characterized by political transition and uncertainty. The funeral, a grand spectacle of mourning and propaganda, served as a symbolic transition of power, while also revealing the underlying tensions and power struggles within the Soviet leadership. The legacy of Stalin's rule, with its achievements and its horrors, continues to be debated and reinterpreted to this day. In conclusion, the death and state funeral of Joseph Stalin was a pivotal moment in Soviet history, marking the end of an era, and the beginning of a new chapter. The funeral, a grand spectacle of mourning and propaganda, was a carefully orchestrated event designed to project an image of national unity and strength. However, it also revealed the underlying tensions and power struggles within the Soviet leadership, as they jockeyed for position in the post-Stalin era. The legacy of Stalin's rule, with its achievements and its horrors, continues to be debated and reinterpreted, serving as a reminder of the complex and often contradictory nature of history. A symbol of technological progress. The USS Nautilus. The USS Nautilus, SSN 571, the world's first nuclear-powered submarine, is a testament to human ingenuity, and a symbol of technological progress. Commissioned by the United States Navy in 1954, the Nautilus revolutionized submarine warfare, ushering in a new era of underwater capabilities and strategic significance. Its groundbreaking achievements, including the first submerged transit of the North Pole, captured the imagination of the world and solidified its place in history as a pioneering vessel, and an enduring icon of naval innovation. The development of the Nautilus was a culmination of decades of research and experimentation in nuclear propulsion. The concept of a nuclear-powered submarine, with its virtually unlimited range and endurance, had long been a dream of naval engineers. However, the technical challenges of harnessing nuclear energy for submarine propulsion were immense, requiring breakthroughs in reactor design, shielding, and safety protocols. Under the leadership of Admiral Hyman G. Rickover, a visionary naval officer and engineer, the U.S. Navy embarked on an ambitious project to build the world's first nuclear-powered submarine. The project, known as the Submarine Thermal Reactor, or STR, program, faced numerous setbacks and technical hurdles, but Rickover's unwavering determination and his team's tireless efforts ultimately paid off. On January 21, 1954, the USS Nautilus was launched, marking a major milestone in naval history. The Nautilus was a technological marvel, equipped with a pressurized water reactor that provided virtually unlimited power for propulsion and other onboard systems. The submarine's streamlined hull, designed for underwater speed and maneuverability, allowed it to travel at unprecedented speeds and depths. The Nautilus also featured advanced sonar and navigation systems, enabling it to operate effectively in the challenging underwater environment. The Nautilus's maiden voyage, in January 1955, was a resounding success. The submarine's nuclear reactor performed flawlessly, and it demonstrated its superior speed and maneuverability. The Nautilus quickly became a symbol of American technological prowess, and a source of national pride. The Nautilus's most significant achievement came in August 1958, when it completed the first submerged transit of the North Pole. This historic feat, dubbed Operation Sunshine, demonstrated the submarine's ability to operate in the Arctic's harsh and unpredictable conditions and opened up new possibilities for underwater exploration and warfare. The Nautilus's success paved the way for the development of a new generation of nuclear-powered submarines, which quickly became the backbone of the U.S. Navy's undersea fleet. The Nautilus's design and technology were also adopted by other navies around the world, leading to a revolution in submarine warfare. The Nautilus served in the U.S. Navy for over 25 years, participating in numerous exercises and operations. In 1980, the Nautilus was decommissioned and designated a National Historic Landmark. Today, the submarine is preserved as a museum ship at the Submarine Force Museum in Groton, Connecticut, where it serves as a reminder of its pioneering role in naval history, and its enduring legacy as a symbol of technological progress. The USS Nautilus, SSN 571, was more than just a submarine. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, technological innovation, and the indomitable spirit of exploration. Its groundbreaking achievements, including the first submerged transit of the North Pole, captured the imagination of the world and inspired generations of scientists, engineers, and explorers. The Nautilus's legacy continues to inspire us today, as we continue to push the boundaries of what is possible in the depths of the ocean and beyond. In the next chapter, we will cover the 1954 Geneva Conference, as well as the Battle of Dien Bien Phu, a decisive victory for Vietnamese independence.